In the interest of time, I'm going to share common questions for everyone, starting from Cindy. Same question, is New York City over 9 million citizens, 4 million workers, commuters, over 200 languages, very diversified city, is I would say the crown jewel of the USA in the Northeast. And over 3 million shortage of cyber security alone, and the engineers. I have millions sitting there, purchase order in the to provide cyber security engineer. It just, we cannot keep up with that. So with that, for everyone, skillings, reskillings, and also diversity and inclusion, MWBE, the strategy that CTO mentioned, and from the Commissioner Pinnock to others in the city agencies, collaboration with the private sector, public sector, city agencies with the skills and collaboration, infrastructure upgrade. Skills is a major issue, skill gap. The future of works, if you Google them, you see what the impact is going to happen. So with that, Cindy, your thoughts, take probably 60 seconds.
There was so much done back there. I'm going to stick with one.
It takes some
one.
seconds.
It's okay. I see my time.
You sure you just don't want to handle this?
What I'll pick on is sort of MWBE that we talked a little bit earlier. Is we have been making sort of really concerted efforts the last couple of years to diversify our, the providers that we're working with, and have spent, countless time, doing networking events on a monthly basis with our account teams, inviting different firms to come in and talk about their capabilities, their skills, their experience. We do virtual sort of speed dating, networking events. We also do in-person events, but it takes a lot of time, but it really does create a better outcome, I think, for our clients. Being able to bring to the city a partnership of KPMG and various MWBE firms that have very, very specific skills, very great skills, that really diversifies our team. So while it takes time to set up, we've been, really leveraging what we've been doing in the city, taking it to our other accounts to make this more of a product fabric versus something that we're doing just to meet a goal. That's not the intent, is to meet a target that the city sets on us or any other state. It's really to create that best diverse team to do the work.
Wonderful.
60 seconds. Go.
Yeah, you got it. Thank you, Joe.
I'll speak to, first of all, Stealth Communications is MWBE certified, but we also, in terms of diversity, if I could twist the meeting a little bit, we provided a diverse path for connectivity, and many of our customers use us as some of us as a primary and then get a secondary from somebody else, or vice versa. We don't really care, but we are on a different path than our competition. A lot of people rent pieces of fiber from Verizon. We have laid our own fiber, so that allows for diversity of infrastructure, and we think it's healthier.
Wonderful. 1 second. We'll have 10 minutes for Q&A. Please get ready for the Q&A after these things. Mike, go for it.
So Capilino actually, so two thoughts on the MWBE piece. When I was at IBM, we had a robust program where we interacted with MWBEs to help fulfill the contractual obligations, which was great. We had good relationships, but I would observe that it really didn't do an awful lot to really help those MWBEs with hyper growth. They became a part of a team. Oftentimes they were being asked to take price pressure down, right? Reduce your costs.
Yeah.
And that's not how those organizations get to hyper growth. At Capilino, we're fortunate enough to have an MWBE practice.
Sure.
We have a number of MWBE clients, and we work with them on everything from certification to appeals to whatever, both at the city and the state level. My wife actually happens to own a WBE certified at the state, and my guidance would be a couple of things. One is, first and foremost, you got to make the process simpler. Right? Many of these organizations are 2-3 people. Right? They're really trying to figure out how to enter into the market, and you can't burden them with, rules and regulations and government bureaucracy that just bogs them down. So that would be one. I think there needs to be more aggressive carve-outs with respect to procurements. So there needs to be, and I know the city is working on that, so that's good. I would also encourage both the city and the state to look at also the type of business that those MWBEs do, because oftentimes what happens is they're doing the fulfillment of product sales. Let's just make it up, right? Dell, not to disparage Dell, but they're selling Dell equipment. Dell is the actual revenue, grabs the revenue associated with that transaction. And so they're taking margin off whatever they can sell that for. But again, if it's a best value procurement from the government, there's downward price pressure. So you really can't get to where you need to be. And then lastly, I think there needs to be deliberate discussions around how do we align the MWBE partners in the tech space, let's say, for example, with where those needs are, whether it's cyber, whether it's migration to cloud, whether it's the platforms that are being deployed throughout the city, where there's real need for those resources, right? Whether it's Salesforce or ServiceNow or AWS or whatever. How do we build programs so that those MWBEs are getting the training necessary so they can participate in some of those transactions, which they would be the recipients of that revenue as opposed to kind of the product pass-through.
Right, wonderful. UTC Associates also MWs at this company, but with the business first strategy, it's with the partnership collaboration with the other companies. That's really I see that works with that. You play a very critical role, and there is also would like to see more and more kind of mentorship program from the bigger companies. That's also I see is very effective. It's just not the lifting up. It just have a shared thoughts and values with that uncovered that strength with this. This is the business end of the day. So that's the practical way to see, and that's my observation. With that, Adam.
Sure. Yeah, I have a lot to say about this reseller like CDW is we absolutely make sure that we're agnostic in terms of being flexible to find solutions. I think that's really what matters at the end of the day, right? Is finding ways to overcome these challenges that aren't necessarily new. I think, like the digital divide, for example, also our citizens not having access to internet, not having the hardware to be able to tap into that internet access. These aren't things that, happen post-pandemic. I think they existed pre-pandemic. It's just that, all it really did was shine a spotlight on the need to really kind of advance that and move it along a lot faster. I think we saw that very clearly with specifically the Department of Education and have students that needed to be able to log in and attend their classes virtually. Whether it's the census takers that need iPads, that's really where I think we start to look at what is it that we're capable of doing, what is out there that we can't do, and part of that line of thinking is where we start to open up our doors and bring in partners like our MWBE community. I think it's no secret that the more diverse, the more inclusive you are, the more creative you can get with your solutions. Not everybody sees everything from the same perspective, and we certainly recognize that our MWB community looks at the challenges through a different lens because they might be closer to the ground on certain things. I think with a tier 2 solution like we have on our contract with the city, it's a win-win for everybody. I mean, I'm a native New Yorker. I was born in Brooklyn. I've lived in every borough at this point, so I don't know if anyone is more qualified to say that they're committed to the city, they're committed to making sure that we all win, right? So, and again, if it wasn't clear from my last name, I'm also biracial. I come from, parents who are small business owners in the city. So I want to see the city win, even just beyond seeing CDW win. I think we get there by having these kind of symbiotic relationships with our MWB community, where one, going back to what Matt Fraser said, having consolidated contracts where you have someone like a CDW sort of at the front end, we're able to build that partner network of MWBEs where they might not have the resources to go and get a prime contract. Maybe they don't.
Commissioner, in particular, playing a very critical role in the agency. And in terms of productivity, given the reskilling, upskilling, post-pandemic challenges we are facing, and the hybrid workforce with that, and you need to upgrade the infrastructure. How that things within your department or in general, if you could say in 60 minutes.
60 minutes, I love it. So,
60 seconds, right.
definitely, one of the lessons learned was the fact that there was certainly a variation of skill as it related to the use of technology within my organization and across all others, right? So when we talk about remote work, 3/4 of the city's workforce, which now stands at over 300,000, were unable to work from home. Many of which were never required to use technology as part of their job, right? So my agency, as an example, the overwhelming majority of my staff really maintain our city-owned buildings and our infrastructure. And so within that group, we have custodians, custodial aides, maintenance workers. So while they are very skilled at their jobs, they had never had to use technology, but really technology had become our lifeline. So we had to really engage in a massive upskilling effort where we created an IT 101, where we had to then provide access first and foremost to either phones or iPads or laptops. So we really had to start at the ground level to build up the capacity of staff who historically had not had access to this technology. And so I'm so happy we're also talking about diversity, because for my agency, that pool are primarily Black and brown individuals who serve New York City, some of which are small business owners. And so when we talk about providing access, we also do that in the MWBE space. So I'm also happy to see one of my partners in crime here, Commissioner Flores from Mayor's Office of Contract Services. And one of the things we've been partnering on is really educating our MWBEs on how to do business with the city. And part of that is introducing them to the technology that we have available. So at the time that they're ready to bid for a contract, whether as a sub or a prime, they know that the city is here to support them and to work with them every step of the way. Also, another thing, similar to what Mike had mentioned, was that we work to debundle contracts. As you know, the city has a lot of buying power, and so our procurement team had really taken a thoughtful approach to look at where there were MWBEs that were already flourishing in the market and really work towards breaking down those large agreements to create space for MWBEs to also thrive. So, was that 16?
Wonderful, thank
Okay.
you.
I felt it was 62.
With that, no, this is a great, obviously everyone. David, with the similar with this acute skill shortage and diversity and inclusion in MWBE, that how you T-Mobile is playing a role in the city as well as globally as well.
Yeah, like CDW had mentioned, we have a citywide contract, and we spend $15 billion a year in women-owned, minority-owned, and diverse businesses, and small businesses, and it's really, really important. I will say, running the U.S. division, New York City's procurement team is the best in the world. I've never seen a team of better procurement officials, better lawyers, better really everything in terms of getting value out. And it's very, very difficult. We have a lot of great lawyers. It took us 4 years to get a contract done, and the city said that was in record time, apparently. Maybe you've done it faster. And so I can't imagine if you're a small business and that's the process that you're essentially going to have to go through. And so I just want to let you know that the partnership opportunity is wide open. We cannot operate the world's best 5G network without great partners, and that comes at every single level and scale. We want to make sure that we're meeting the needs of cities, and we want to build wealth creation for people who are out there. And so I do want to make sure that you know that T-Mobile is very focused on that. I signed a joint partnership agreement with Secretary Raimondo of the U.S. Department of Commerce to specifically fund and support small business, minority, and women-owned leaders, veteran-owned leaders, disabled-owned businesses, and the Department of Commerce and T-Mobile will invest in that.
I have about 4 or 5 minutes for 2-3 questions. It's on the floor. If you can take them up. Yeah.
Ask your first question.
Yeah.
Take your first question.
Who has a question? Hi everyone, I'm the editor-in-chief at Cities.
Hi everyone, I'm Gina Herrera. So my question to you, I have been a sub and I have been a prime vendor for the city of New York, QOTM. and I found that being the main vendor, primary vendor, had a lot more involvement with the contract than I did with sub to my third party, my secondary. So one of my vendors, he or she is a minority women-owned business, and they have a few other minorities. My question to you is, when you're putting out the contracts and utilization report that you put for the, the MWBE spend, is it dictation in there as to who you're qualifying? What is the qualification? Or just using utilization, because I get emails every day and I use your certification to become, be part of this program. Is the city of New York and the organizations creating a criteria for WBE in order to be, or an MWBE in order to be one of your vendors? Because you get to go into this process and sometimes it doesn't work. So as a sub, as a main prime vendor, I've been working with vendors in regards to have my primary vendors for my own little BMO, and I dictate and roll down the contract. So I'm just curious if there's anything like that.
Thank you. Perhaps Commissioner would like to address that?
Sure, and I probably will want to come talk to you after the panel because I will talk about some aspects of what you mentioned, but honestly, I do think that my partners at Small Business Services and potentially Commissioner Flores are better positioned to give you more detailed information. The short answer is yes, right? So there has been criteria developed for pre-qualification, also about how utilization is calculated. But in addition to that, as a city, we try to take a more thoughtful approach about looking at the disparity within the disparity. Because it clearly shows us that in certain markets, there are certain groups that have historically received contracts above others. And so when I talked about the debundling aspect around looking at our buying power, how best to leverage that to create wealth across communities, that has been part of that work. But if you have a moment afterwards, I would love to talk to you so I can put you in contact with Commissioner Kim. A slew of entry-level jobs, and then as it relates to our personal responsibility to ourselves, really feeding our curiosity, being honest with ourselves about areas in which we thrive, those other skills we're scared to tap into, which I certainly think in the tech space is something that we quickly learned as an agency, that so many of us were just tech-averse and just decided that we weren't technical, we would leave it to someone else, but I see it as a shared responsibility.
There are tons of credible materials in the internet. I will be remiss if I don't mention that I myself founded a company in 2014, it's a global skill development, it's called Chorus Trust, and it's really providing digital skills to the people underserved and unserved area and uplifting the youth, and is working. I was in Davos a few weeks ago, and the UN and UN organization investing $22 million in that thing. So the skills and upgrading skills is a very critical, it's a shared responsibility from private sector, government sector, as well as the companies. This is very critical and very good question. With that, I would like to thank you panel for this important discussion, as well as shared responsibility is really, with that, I would like to end the session. Thank you, everyone.